Hello and welcome to another episode of Property Porn Stars, the premium property podcast. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Toby Martin.
Hello.
Who's a very interesting time of your career with chopping and changing with what you're doing and doing something completely different, and we'll get into that. Full disclosure, we've both had a beer, so this might get a little bit loosey-goosey, but I can convince you to spill the tea.
This is the first time I've had a pint, 1 pint before a podcast, David.
It wasn't
but
1 pint.
If you know me, 1 pint is about the limit with me, so who knows what is going to unfurl here.
We are in a pub, in fairness, so it'd be rude not to. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff I want to get into with you, and I want to kick off with a relatively controversial question, but just to give some context to people that are listening as to who you are and what you do and what you specialise in now, to make sense of the questions that I'll ask you.
Yeah, okay. That is a harder question than you know, because what I do has changed quite recently, and so I was a letting agent up until the end of last year. I was a letting agent for the last 13 years before that. So lettings is very much my background. Then at the end of last year, I took that big step to leave it all behind, the comfort and safety of a full-time, stable, employed role. And in the year or two leading up to that decision, I really got a taste for working with other agents. Through some of the work that I'd done with, especially Property-Pxrn, who I had been working with quite a lot at that point, I'd come into contact with lots of agents, really passionate agents, and forward-thinking, creative agents, which really gave me a taste for working agent to agent as opposed to with the public. So it was at the end of last year that I took that step to try and do that full-time. There then ensued several months operating under my own company, training and consulting on, yes, lettings, but also my other kind of trump cards, which tended to be marketing, video marketing, and also diverting off more recently into the world of AI. And then more recently, just as we record this in the last few weeks, I've now teamed up with Unchained, Simon Ledbetter's wonderful, I would say that because I work for them, marketing organisation, which is truly, truly exciting. You're getting to work with other people again, but not just other people. Really, again, forward-thinking, creative people. You know, Simon and his whole team are just really sort of strategic thinkers, innovators. So getting the backing of a team once more to really kind of progress that movement from lettings now into the world of marketing. And I bring that kind of video expertise to the Unchained team, which is very exciting.
Tosounds like right place, right time in terms of where the industry's going and increasingly video and so on. Speaking of video, so we've been here today together,
Yeah.
filming content. I've been filming some content, there's some people here filming content with me, and then you've been here on an all-day shoot with Simon Gates, another Simon from the industry. And we'll kind of get onto what you and him have been doing together. But one of the things I recorded today was like a bit of a kind of look back over, because by design my business is 3 years old now, and one of the things I said in that video was like anyone who's taken that leap to go from employed to self-employed and start their own business and kind of stare into that abyss, and fair play, hats off, like utmost respect, regardless of field or anything. It's a big leap, so fair play to you for doing so.
It wasn't one that I took. Do you know what? Thank you. However, I feel that's a misrepresentation, because I'd say that I kind of tripped and stumbled off that cliff edge rather than bravely plunged over.
I think everyone ends up the same kind of thing.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. But do you know what? I actually left my old role without any semblance of a plan, and I looked at self-employed agency. I think it took me a while to realise what I really wanted to do, and then to have the guts to commit to it.
Yeah, okay.
And I kind of almost started doing it by default, because happily people started offering me work.
Yeah.
So it kind of felt like a happy accident more than
a big leap,
a big brave.
Yeah, oh, good.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. No, fantastic. Okay, and then so your speciality, your mastermind specialist subject is around video content.
Yes.
Primarily for socials.
Primarily for socials. However, that's a bit of a hobby horse of mine, because when I talk to people and train on video, I'm always really keen to actually encourage people not to be too blinkered when it comes to social media, because yes, video is great for social media, and there's all the data in the world will tell you that if you're going to be posting regularly on social media, it should be video, because it's what gets promoted by the algorithms, it's what the consumer wants to watch, it's what all of our day-to-day viewing habits on social media point towards video. However, when you put a lot of time and effort into making great video content, don't just post and forget and move on to the next video, because you miss out on a huge number of other marketing opportunities that come when you do create genuinely valuable content. And I mean by that the kind of video I encourage people to make is usually informative, educational, providing balanced guidance to the consumer. So yeah, post it on social media. However, also post it on your own website, on your blog, or create a separate knowledge hub on your blog full of this library of informative videos. Explore your CRM, share it direct to consumers. If you've made a video that is particularly discussing advice for downsizers, then if you've segmented your CRM properly, you should be able to send that video directly to those downsizers in your database. So yes, primarily aimed at social media. However, I would say don't just be so blinkered to think that all video content is purely for social media.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I can't remember what it was. There was some pithy saying that someone told me, but they're so correct in whoever it was, that was talking about the balance of I can't do this in a pithy way, but the time that you spend creating content versus the time you spend like production versus promotion. Yeah. So you spend all the time producing the content. And I'm certainly guilty of it with this podcast, for example. Say we'll sit down for whatever it is, an hour or something, and have a podcast, and then it goes out. Yeah. And then there's some bits that we do with Opus and all of that to chop it up, turn it into shorts and repost it and so on, but not nearly as much as I should do, considering all of the content and all of the bits of very valuable information that comes out of that conversation for an hour. Yeah. Sort of, unless you eat the whole meal, you don't get the little tasters of the nuggets of gold that come through.
So let's take that as an example. Yeah. And so a podcast is an example. It could equally be a monthly market report, some form of relatively long form content. And when I say long form, I basically mean anything that's more than 2 minutes long. Yeah. So out of that, if you're being astute about it, you get your long form video, which can go onto YouTube. Obviously, with the podcast, the audio can go onto Spotify and other streaming services. Then, like you say, you put it through Opus Clip, and you can easily get a month's worth of social media clips out of that. Then through various AI platforms or YouTube itself, you can get the transcript, feed the transcript into ChatGPT and get it to write a blog, which can then go on your business's website. If this is a state agency, a blog about the podcast with a link to the podcast in it. You can then repurpose that through ChatGPT into a newsletter. So repurposing it in, like you say, an hour's work plus editing. And then using it across a variety of different formats if you're being really smart about it. Yeah,
definitely. And I think I'm certainly guilty of that. I think lots of people are as well. And that's when you look down the barrel of having to create this content and go, oh my God, I've got to do it again and again and again. Well, you could almost do less content creation and more milk the cow more what you've already got.
With agency video, when I encounter agents who are quite thick on the ground, who are slightly reluctant to embrace the world of video for one of various reasons. It might be that they feel awkward on camera, or more often the reason I just don't have time. I don't have time to get stuff out there regularly. I challenge them to say, okay, can you make 8 60-second clips per month and 1 market report? So that's a month's worth of video content. You make 1 market report and put it through Opus Clips, so you get a month's worth of clips, and then say 2 FAQ videos per week, advising the client on pain points or concerns or frequently asked questions that they have. And that, when you then mix that in with the other ingredients of your marketing campaigns, so your listings, your Google reviews, whatever else, that then becomes quite a healthy mix. So really, to film 8 60-second clips could take you, let's say, an hour. I mean, like you say, I was filming today with Simon Gates, and we made probably about 75 short form videos in one day. So to make 8 is not time consuming if you know what you're talking about. So really, for a whole month's video content, you could do that in one morning. Yeah. So it's not as tall or ask as people sometimes anticipate it's going to be.
No, I would agree with that. So to say something like relatively controversial, but I mean it very positively, is so I make quite a lot of content, and sometimes I find it quite hard to find like the subject matter to be talking about. And I'm very, very, very jealous of estate agents who have so much content to go at. Like I think what happens is, because they're doing the job every day, they're going out, meeting people, seeing houses, traveling around on appointments, whatever. Because that's the job, it feels, relatively speaking, boring, because they get used to it and they're doing it all the time. And there's no novelty in it necessarily because they're doing it all the time. 99% of people have a job which is probably quite similar to mine, very desk-based, very un-Instagrammable, because it is sat behind a desk, not out and about and meeting people, and especially in our end of the market, beautiful houses. I think like they must think, because they are bored of it, that the audience would also find it boring, when nothing could be further from the truth. I think people are fascinated. Like the job of an agent is so interesting compared to the vast majority of jobs out there. Just almost document what you're doing. I would, if you're in your car going somewhere, tell us where you're going, what you're doing, who you're going to see, obviously within data laws or whatever, but the properties you're going to see, talk to us about it. You're spoiled for choice, you're spoiled for content. People would give eye teeth for that kind of content.
Yeah, but it's astonishing though, that when I do speak to agents, a great many of them say to me, I know I should be doing video, but I just don't know what to talk about. And so you're right, there is a wealth of information to discuss. I mean, first of all, the market itself. We all know the first question that any prospective client is going to ask you is, how's the market? So answer that question on a monthly basis. But then we're also fortunate that we work in quite a complex industry. To the layperson, the mechanisms of a house sale or a property rental are actually quite complicated. And so there's a lot of genuine advice and genuine educating that we can do of our customers, which is to them both interesting and also genuinely helpful. And then, like you say, lay over the top of that the more beautiful stuff, the listings, the house tours, the little glimpses, the little kind of shots of Argas and fireplaces and dogs lying on hearth rugs and things like that. And you can very easily build up this very kind of very diverse layer of video marketing, which covers all sorts of different things, but crucially has you at the heart and center of it, conveying your personality, conveying your knowledge and expertise. You're right, it's an industry that has a gold mine of stuff to cover in video content, so there should be no excuse not to do it, you'd have thought.
I guess a big excuse that people give you is they don't like being on camera.
Yeah,
that must be a pretty common one, right?
Yeah, very common. And so when I do video training with people, I always say, right, before I point a camera at you, there's two things that we're going to tick off first. So first of all, I want to get buy-in from you, because an awful lot of people say, do you know what? It's just fluff. It's nice to have, it looks shiny, but I've got clients to call back, I've got market appraisals to write up, and I don't have the time to make these videos. And so really explaining the business reasons for doing it, and it's not just shiny aesthetic fluff. And then we move on to camera confidence. And it is a big one. I've had people who literally burst into tears at the prospect of a camera being pointed at them. So you can't underplay it. For a great many people, it is a genuine fear. So yes, you have to then look at the nature of like getting outside of your comfort zone and making it more comfortable.
So just going to those two parts, and the first part was the business case for it. So what's your business case for creating more video with your face in it?
Okay, so there's a couple of bits of data I particularly like to roll out at this point. I do love data because in theory you shouldn't be able to argue back against statistics. But so there's various research that shows by the time we arrive at our market appraisal, the customer who you're meeting is already up to 70% of the way through their decision. Gone are the days when you think of old marketing funnels, when all of your potential market is at the top of the funnel, and then out at the bottom of the funnel comes your actual customers. And in the middle, there's various things that mean that people either go elsewhere or they choose not to come to market. But it's a very kind of linear decision-making process. At the top, I decide I want to sell my home, and at the bottom, I've chosen my agent. And in between, you just make your decision. Now, that sort of journey that the consumer goes on is all over the shop. We decide we want to sell our home, and then what happens in between there and deciding to sell our home is we, first of all, carry out a huge amount of research ourselves online, because we want to feel in control of our own decision. We want to make an informed decision. We don't want to feel sold to. We want to soak up all the information that's available to us online and make a decision ourselves, not because someone has given us a convincing sales pitch. So we soak up blogs, social media, word of mouth, Google reviews, forums, all manner of, Google calls it the messy middle, the middle of the funnel, which used to just be linear, and now it's all over the shop. So by the time you meet your client, they've already up to 70% of the way through their decision. They've already formed an opinion on you. So my question is, do you want to leave that to chance, what they think of you, or do you want to feed them the materials so that they reach the conclusion that you want them to reach? And it's a wonderful opportunity, because we all know that uptake of video is not huge amongst agents.
Yeah.
So if you're doing it, there's a chance that your competitors aren't.
Yep.
And then you pair that statistic with the statistic that, okay, we know that in the messy middle period, people are soaking up, if they're researching you, they're soaking up information about you. And while they're doing that on the internet. And 82% of all internet traffic is people watching video. So it's what people like to do online. You think about what you do when you sit down on the sofa in the evening and you pull out your phone, the chances are you're going to wind up watching some social media video. We want to consume videos. So our responsibility as professionals is to meet the consumer where they are, not to come to us, not for us to sit back and say, well, do you know what? I understand that consumers like watching videos, but I don't like making them. So I want you to come to me.
Yeah.
It's our job to go to them and give them what they want. So that is the business case for it. If you're not doing it, you're not actually giving your consumer the materials they're looking for in that research phase of their transactional decision.
Yep. I would agree with that. I'm speaking, I think it was Chris England about this, and I said that I find it just fast forwards relationships. And it's funny, today we're here with Simon Gates, I had that with him, where I've seen so much of his stuff and he's seen so much of mine, that when we started talking, it felt like we've been talking for ages. And even to a degree, it's funny to say, but with you as well, like we chatted on the phone the other day when we were all going to be here today, and I was like, I feel like I know, because I've seen your content online, I feel like I know enough about you, what you're like as a person, what you're interested in, what you're not interested in, your general values as a person. So I feel like I don't have to, I could have turned up here and not known who you were.
Yeah.
Like, is that person Toby or what? But I fast forwarded all of that, so I'm already 10 steps ahead. Or rather, let's imagine I was a vendor in this situation, you're already 10 steps ahead than it would be otherwise. And then the other thing is a funny thing to say, but I can't really explain this, but I feel like there's an element to which if you know someone but they don't know you, there's that kind of fame. I don't know, like, oh, I know who they are, but they don't know who I am. Therefore, they have more, the balance of power in the relationship is more tilted in their favour because they are well known. And there's some authority that goes with that.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's a little game that I like to play whenever I get the chance to talk about video, especially on training or at conferences, things like that. And so I use this as an example, and this trust me, this will make sense. The UK singles chart. If you go back to the 1980s and the heyday of, Duran Duran and all those bands, and you look at the first half of the decade, because now we're halfway through our decade now. In the first half of that decade, the number one single in the UK singles chart was held by a band.
I've heard this, yeah.
For 146 weeks over the decade, the half decade.
Yeah.
As opposed to a solo artist.
Yeah.
1990s, it was 141. Do you know what it was in the first half of this decade?
It's inconceivably tiny.
Yeah, it was 3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks, and one of those bands was the Beatles, because one of their songs got re-released. And the point that I make by that is that our age, our society now is all about personality.
Yeah.
It's all about connecting with individuals, and it's why you see solo artists taking over in the singles charts, and it's why you see the rise of bespoke agents in the estate agency world, and it's why on social media you see the likes of Richard Branson having more followers than Virgin and Tim Cook more followers than Apple. It's because we crave connection with individuals and personalities. And so if you can give your target market that, if you can sate that craving by letting them feel like they are looking in on your life and letting them feel like they're making a connection with you, then by the time you arrive on their doorstep, you get exactly what you just referenced, that kind of almost celebrity feel of like, oh, I love your videos. I love that one you did last week.
Yeah.
And no other form of marketing will do that for you, really.
No, it's true. No, it's true. And then the second part of what you were saying was it seems a ridiculous way to express it, camera shy, but it kind of is that. I remember speaking to someone who actually ran the studios we used to record the podcast in, and he did kind of media training for people, and especially people that were particularly camera shy. And we were chatting about it and what the training was that he does. Basically, it was just exposure therapy.
Yeah.
Like if you're scared of spiders, you just put a tarantula on the table, and after a certain amount of time, you're like, okay, well, this is a bit ridiculous. He did that with a camera in the room, and he said he had some people actually run away from it. It was a scary, like, I would be scared of a tarantula. They were just as scared of the camera. It was almost a phobia. How do you get over that with people?
Yeah, that's a great example, and I kind of encourage people to go down that route, maybe a little more gently, depending on the personality. But I try to convince people that you're actually not scared of being on camera. People say, "Oh, I'm terrified of the camera. I'm scared of it." Scared is what you are when your life is in danger. If you're being chased by a bear, you're allowed to say you're scared. Your life's not in danger. What you are is you're uncomfortable. It feels unnatural because every day of your life you're not accustomed to a phone being held up and you being asked to speak into the lens. If you did do it every day, it wouldn't feel as unnatural. So you've got to go through a kind of acclimatization process almost. And so I encourage people, I say, look, if you really want to buy into being on camera consistently, then make a commitment now that in, say, 2 months' time, you're going to post your first video on social media. And then every day until then, you're privately going to film a video, a daily diary.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
Just a 60-second video saying what you did that day before you go to bed or whenever. And you make a commitment. You do that every single day. And you can't tell me that after the 60th filming session, you're going to feel exactly the way you did after the first time you spoke on camera. And it's just that process of making it feel more natural. And I think that's exactly what you're describing. It is a form of kind of immersion therapy. Yeah. Just maybe over a bit more period of time.
I really like that. That's a really good tip for anyone who's listening there. I really like that. When I was chatting with Chris about this, I described it, and I stand by this, and maybe this just says more about the people I associate with as mates, but I think that there is, what I've coined, a reverse honeymoon period, i.e. you could do all of that, but it's still going to be shit for a while, because because your mates will take the piss out of you for 2 weeks. Yeah. And again, maybe that's just me and my mates or whatever, but I think that there is like, oh, who do you think you are now? You think you're the next Ryan Serhant or whatever, like putting the content out. I get that. We're British. Piss taking is kind of our love language, and I totally appreciate it. But after a while, they give up, and you've got to persist through it, because and like on a kind of serious note, like because I do a fair amount of video, don't particularly enjoy it, but I don't really know any, maybe all the exceptions to the rule, that does video that really enjoys it. But I think that everyone deep down knows how good it is for business. And someone described it to me and really framed it as this for me, and I was like, yeah, that's totally right. And they were like, if you know it's the right thing to do, and what you're worried about is other people's opinions of you, like, are these people that are going to be at your funeral? And if not, why, excuse my French, why do you give a fuck about their opinion? If that is going to stand in between you and what you want to achieve, are you really going to let their opinions, even if they hate you, get in the way of that?
Yeah, I understand it feels more personal because you're putting your face and your character out there, but I'd be really surprised if anyone's made it to that stage in their career, especially if they're a business owner, without getting some form of criticism, whether that's through a client leaving a 1-star Google review or someone just disagreeing with what you say or what you're doing. Yet when it happens over a video we suddenly have an existential crisis. It's like, oh my God, it's the way I sound, it's the way I look, it's the clothes I wear, what is
it? It's a personal attack on me,
yeah. With the alternative, it's like, that's fine, it's my business, it's not me.
At least there's a layer of...
buffer.
Yeah, it's a buffer, yeah.
But I think that, so it does feel intrinsically more personal. And I think that you've just got to, you do obviously have to develop a bit of a thick skin. But funnily enough, I agree with what you said about the reverse honeymoon period, but for different reasons. Maybe I just move in more polite circles.
Better mates. Fair enough.
A lot of the people who I've sort of talked to about doing videos say, well, yeah, actually, when you first put yourself out there, maybe in professional circles, say on LinkedIn, you get lovely feedback. Because people aren't used to seeing you. You know, they've read your posts, they've seen photos of you, and it's like the first time they've ever seen you
come to life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you get this great response, but then it drops off. And so a lot of people say, the hardest video is the first that you'll do. Actually, the first few videos should be lovely, because if you're putting them out there to the right people, then you will get a few people coming to you saying, oh, I love that video, I haven't seen you do that before, that's really great, keep it up. And then when it goes quiet, that's when it gets tough. And that's when you have to keep going, and you have to keep, I spent an hour making a video and only one person liked it, or nobody liked it, and keep churning them out and making it consistent and regular. I think that's when it's really tempting to give up.
That's a really good point. Someone described business in the same sense as like a marathon. Everyone cheers for you at the start of the marathon. Everyone cheers for you at the finish line. You've got 26 miles of absolute shit to deal with.
Long, lonely miles.
yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's actually a really good frame of reference to put it in, isn't it?
I'm saying that like I understand what it means to run a marathon.
No, me neither. I couldn't think of anything worse. It shan't be happening. So I was going to ask something else then, and it just threw my train of thought. So I'll ask something else. Actually, this is a very practical thing on that note, because I've had some videos I thought would do really well and some that have absolutely bombed. And none of my stuff is like property videos per se. It's just stuff, because I'm B2B really. Is there, like, when I say practical, I mean, if I've edited a particular video in CapCut or someone else has edited it for me, do the social media platforms know that and then downrate you in their algorithms to show people, or is that just nonsense? Does it not matter at all?
In terms of downrating you because of where you've edited it?
Yeah, sorry. I think like not necessarily where you've edited, but the more editing that goes into it, the less the less it does well. And I heard it was because they value, for example, a Facebook Live does very well because they want it to be very raw content. Like
I think that's true. I think with pre-recorded videos, there's certainly certain things that you can do to increase your chances of being shared to a wider audiences. However, there's always going to be instances where you put blood, sweat and tears into a video and it then bombs. To which I'd say post it again in 6 months' time if it's an evergreen video. Don't just use it once. But I think that the basics are, so you want a strong opening, so we call it the hook. By and large, it's thought that you have 3 seconds on social media to grab the attention of the viewer. So you've got to do something within those 3 seconds. So you've got verbal hooks, which is a thought-provoking statement, a rhetorical question, something to draw in the attention of the viewer and stop them from scrolling on. You've also got visual hooks, so can you do something interesting in those first 3 seconds? It might be that you jump into frame or spin around on your chair, or you have some kind of trick of the eye, some editing trick where there's 5 of you walking around a room or something like that. So you need that strong hook. And one of the big mistakes that people often make thinking about social media videos is to open with either, "Hi, I'm Toby Martin, and I'm the MD of Martin Estates Limited." And your time's gone. You said nothing of interest. People have already scrolled on. There's no need to introduce yourself, because the likelihood is
your name is around it anyway.
It's everywhere. It's all on the page. And the second thing that people sometimes say is they open with, "I just thought I'd pop on and record a quick video about."
This is my bugbear. If I could, and I've said this to people, like, delete the word just. Why is it always just? And I never know why that comes in. They always say it.
I say delete the whole lot.
I delete the whole lot.
Because we can all see you're recording a video. You don't need to tell us.
I know, but
just is...
It's always there. And I don't know why that comes in.
Is it designed to make it sound casual? Like, just recording a quick video.
It must be that.
It serves no purpose.
It serves no purpose. The other thing that someone told me, and it was based off the back of like a real... It was quite a viral piss take video. I think it's called something like the millennial breath or the millennial pause.
Millennial pause, yeah.
Yeah, and they're stitched together, like the video editor is stitched together, like nothing but those breaths of some woman. Do you remember the video? Anyway, the person that told me the tip, it was a really good tip, is they said, when you record something on your phone, inhale, press record, and then speak, so that you're not going beep, hello, da 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 da. And I was like, actually, that's a really good tip. And then you do go,
yeah.
And then you press record and you're off with the content already going, so you avoid that millennial. Is it called millennial breath?
It's called the millennial pause. Yeah,
Millennial
I don't know why it's particularly associated with millennials. I should know because I think I am one.
Because we shit with technology, probably. Not the TikTok Gen Zers and
Yeah, I've got a similar approach, which is. Again, one of my bugbears is people who, and I'm starting to turn into grumpy old man territory here. And another thing I don't like, I love a lot of what people do on their video stuff, but it is when you get these people, and I think we're quite guilty of this in estate agency, because estate agency is a very serious profession, and we want to be taken seriously. And the way that we try to do that is we convey ourselves seriously. We want to be taken seriously, and so we look miserable on camera. We have a dour expression, and it's like we're breaking bad news. And so I always say to people, like you said, take a breath before you start speaking. I say to people, take a breath and smile, and then count to 3. And you'll find that by the time you start speaking, a smile has just dropped a little bit, so you don't look like a raving loon, and you just look approachable and friendly.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a bigger point there to be made about, can you also make your videos maybe slightly lightly humorous or slightly entertaining, a little bit fun, depending on your brand personality and your brand voice. But I think serious quite often equals boring. So don't try and work too hard to come across with too much gravity.
I know. I've seen the same thing. People that are so nice in person, and when you put a camera in front of them, suddenly this frown comes out, and they're super. What happened there? You're not that guy. I really agree. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the podcast, and chances are if you're listening to this podcast, then the premium property market is of some interest to you. But how interesting actually is it? Well, we can tell you that with a free personalised premium market report on the premium property market in your area. It shows you firstly the value of the premium market around you, and it also shows an in-depth competitor analysis as to what your competition are doing, the good, the bad, and in some detail as well. So you can perhaps make a strategy of how you would take some of that market for yourself if you wanted to. All you need to do is go to bydesignhomes.com/report. That's bydesignhomes.com/report, and we'll send it to you within a day or two. That's it. Back to the episode. So here's a controversial one. I recorded a podcast in the last few weeks with Sam Ashdown. Do you know Sam? Sam of Ashdown Jones and the Lakes. And what I found really interesting about her is a number of things, but what I really appreciated is she properly got off the fence with something. Mm-hmm. And I said to her, Sam, I've noticed something, that she has some wonderful properties up there, really, really beautiful, but she doesn't do videos. She doesn't do property videos. Right. And we were talking about this, and I grilled her a bit on it because it's such a controversial take in this day and age to intentionally not do property videos.
Sure.
And there were lots of arguments as to why you shouldn't do them. And for the sake of making it an interesting conversation, I pushed back and I said, but surely there's marketing and exposure you can gain for those properties by them being on certain platforms, for example, but also like if you are, so I said to her, if I was starting an estate agency today and I wanted to be in that premium market, would you advise me to or advise me not to do presenter-led property videos? And she said, I'd advise you not to do them. And like I say, really appreciate how off the fence she was with that. Most people give a bit of a politician's answer. They're like, oh, well, it depends on the... All right, okay. She said that, equally asked you to get off the fence. What would your answer be to the same question?
Okay. I'd like to give you...
a politician's answer.
No, I'm going to get off the fence, but I'd like to give you an answer maybe you're not expecting. And I've been hoiking this opinion around and no one's taken me up on it yet. And I think it will work beautifully in the premium market. So what I really would love to see an agent do, you mentioned presenter-led videos. I would love to see seller-led videos. I love the idea of a video tour opening outside the house. You've got the owners arm around each other, stood on the doorstep. They say, hi, we're the Martins and we're selling our family home. We'd like to show you around. and then you know they're in the living room and they say, oh, this is where our kid used to sit when he was growing up, and he'd look out and he played football out in the garden there when he grew older. And I would love to see more clients in videos talking about the personal stories, the histories in that house. And obviously I'm really interested why Sam has a blanket no approach. If it is, as I've heard other people say, because especially with presenter-led videos, they say, oh, we don't do presenter-led videos because we don't want the agent to be the star of the show. We want to show the property, and the agent gets in the way of it. Then my counter-argument to that is, okay, I understand that. Why don't you make the client the star of the story? And I understand that there's a difficult piece of convincing to do there, to say to the client, I want you to star in a video. But I think if you were to say to the client, okay, what I'd love to do to help your property stand out on the market is I'd love to interview you to get some quotes we can use in the property description, which a lot of agents do. They have a quote about how we love the local community or whatever it might be. And you can explain that will really help the property stand up because the other agents aren't doing it. And I think most clients would say, yes, I'm happy to talk to you about my home. And then if you go after that, having got their buy-in to that, go one step further and say, I'll tell you what, we can really help the marketing to pop and stand out against the competition. If you're just happy for me to set up a couple of cameras while we do that and record you telling me about it. And again, I think if you properly express just how much difference it could make to the marketing, you've got that initial buy-in from them to talk about it in the first place, just that extra ingredient of, oh, and can I film it? I think a lot of clients, if you persuade them of the difference it can make to the market, would agree to do that. I'd love to see agents doing that.
I really like that. I think that there's a lot of sense in that. I actually saw one that was quite similar to that, and this is in a previous role, and this was very old. Like I want to say this was almost 10 years ago that this happened, but it was still absolutely fantastic. What it was, this was kind of before the days of the prevalence of presenter-led videos like we would know them now, but it was still property videos were happening.
Yeah.
So it was a property video with nobody in it, just the voiceover talking about it. But then the final clip was the couple sat on a bench outside, and it was actually them talking the whole time. And you're like, oh my God, it was you the whole time.
I love
and
that.
yeah, it was. I was like, what? And everyone says it's like a twist at the end of the tale.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, it was really cool. But I remember it to this day because of what you said. I completely agree with the sentiment. Going back to Sam Ashdown for a second, I've sort of done her a bit of a disservice, partly for dramatic effects. But what she was, there's kind of two parts to it though. Like she was saying not to do property videos full stop. Like I don't agree with her on that, but she said like the photos should do the selling of it, not necessarily the video.
Right.
That's her point of view on that, I believe, but listen to the podcast, it'll be out very soon. And then the second thing is she said do videos, but for your company, not for your properties. So obviously her and Phil, her business partner, they do a lot of content. They're out there a lot, putting their face. They are really, really strong on that. But it's not for the property. So she's saying, no, I would thoroughly recommend anyone, that hypothetical agent who's just starting. They said, put your face out there for the business, just not for the properties. So that's her justification for it.
Okay, yeah. So she would advise people to go down the kind of the guidance and advice video route of maybe like consumer advice as opposed to property tours and things like that. And
kind of the stuff that you said before, like your market updates and things like that. There's much more content around.
I can understand. I certainly identify with the importance of that kind of video. Yeah. And I normally advise people to you mentioned what we were doing today. So today we filmed over 70 videos, 6 months worth of content, and to me that's the foundational layer of your marketing. That consumer advice, good, honest, genuine guidance and education of the consumer, and to have that going out regularly, I think just shows anyone who's in the messy middle, who's doing their research, is going to find a treasure trove of expertise and honest guidance, and I think that's really important. My take would be that I think that you can lay on top of that wonderfully aesthetic video tours of homes, and I think that gives you the because let's face it, the guidance and the educational videos are not thrilling. They're interesting and they portray you very well. they're not sexy.
Yeah.
So I think having something a little more beautiful, a little more aesthetically pleasing, especially on platforms like Instagram, you want to have that healthy mix because people come to those platforms for aesthetics.
Yeah.
So preferably do both, I would say.
Makes sense. So this sort of sounds like it's a shameless plug in your direction, but generally I was like, what? Because when we were organising today, so we've been in the same place today, I remember you and Simon saying, oh, so we're going to be there sort of 10 till 4-ish and you want to do 50 videos. I was like, yeah, right, good luck with that. But actually, I was completely wrong because you've done 70 videos and you finished at like 3:15. And I was like, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah, I can't take all the credit for that. And much as I'm loath to give Simon too much credit without him even being in the room, seems like a waste. But, it helps when you're dealing with someone who is very confident in their knowledge. But actually that should apply to all of us. And ultimately you want to film videos about your expertise. If you're a selling agent, you want to film videos about what are the frequently asked questions that come up on market appraisals during the exchange process, during the selling process, any point along the way. Those are the things that you guide your clients on day in, day out. So actually, if I ask you to film a 60-second video giving a piece of advice, you should be able to do that pretty easily.
Yeah.
All nerves aside about camera shyness and that kind of thing. So if you plan properly in advance, you go into these filming days properly prepared, so you've got your list of questions, you might have a few bullet points about what you're going to talk about in each question, then it is literally just a matter of pressing record, filming each video, and you can get through them. You get on a roll, you get momentum. And for me, it's hands down the most efficient way to work, because yes, people do say to me, I just don't have time to fit it in around my other stuff. And I say to those people, can you afford me a single day every 6 months, 2 days a year? And I would like to think that even the busiest agents could afford 2 days a year for something that would make such a big impact to their marketing efforts. And if you can afford 2 days a year, then if you film 50 videos on each day, you've got really good content for a whole year there. And it's evergreen content rather than seasonal content. It's stuff that won't go out of date. So not market reports, but how does the selling process work? What do you need to do to prepare your home for market? Things like that. And then your market reports you can do once a month. So really, you want to try and do it in a time efficient way like that.
Batch them
to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by all means, if that is too much for you to take, then do it once a quarter. Try and do 20 videos once a quarter or whatever it may be. But for me, and I've tried doing it with various ways over the years myself and with other agents, it is to set aside a whole day with no distractions, emails off, phone on airplane mode, and just film the whole day, get 50 to 70 done. And then you've only got to do it twice a year.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's what I feel like today has been. Like I have a mode on my laptop and phone that's recording where just everything turns off, like airplane mode, and you just got to get it done, and then you can forget about it and go on to the next thing. But you can't forget about it, because this is the next thing I was going to ask you about was like editing.
Yeah. It's often raised as one of the things that really holds people up.
Yeah, especially almost harder in isn't harder in batches, but then you've got more stuff to deal with, more moving parts and so on. So I listened to, I actually can't remember who it was, but there was some YouTube business guru person. There are many thereof.
Yeah.
But one of the things they said is that they said you've got to stop editing your own videos, and they're like, and it kind of resonated with me because I've edited a few of my own videos, and I've honestly, hand on heart, never done something. I've done some things, but very few things I can put my hand on that would have accelerated time as fast as editing a video is done. Like I will lose an hour and it's for like 5 minutes, and I'll go, oh my God, where has that gone? Yeah. And it's frightening, and the outcome doesn't really justify that amount of time either. So if you're batching that content, doing it on your phone, so I guess the question is multiple parts. To what level do they need to be edited? And then how would you recommend someone does edit them? Yeah,
it's a really good question. And it's actually an area where I'm quite open to being told I don't do it in the best way myself. Because, so I think that the right answer for me to give is yes, it can be a time-consuming task. you've got more important jobs to do, so why don't you consider outsourcing it? Go on to Fiverr, find someone who can do it, who's based anywhere in the world, and they don't charge the earth. My own reasons for not doing that is one, I guess I make a living out of this, so I'm quite precious with how my own videos look. If you outsource your videos on a platform like Fiverr, be prepared for them to come back with Americanisms in the subtitles, with it not appearing quite how you want it to. When I make a video, I've got, especially with the ones that are a little bit more fun or entertaining, or have a bit of a visual trick or some kind of bit of editing fun thrown in there. I've got it in my mind how I want it to look, and I tell myself, right, I know how I want it to look, so I'm going to do it, because it's easier than explaining it to somebody else. I think for business owners, if you have a team, I know there's all sorts of things. Sometimes I hear people say, oh, social media, get a young person on your team to do it. And I hate that, because social media is more complicated than that. But editing, if you have a member of your team who is particularly tech savvy, send them on a course, and then you take responsibility for doing all your filming, and have someone else on your team who does all the editing. It can be a more junior member of the team. If you're an MD, don't spend your hours editing videos. But what is frustrating, and I hope will change sometime soon, is I do not believe that there is yet an AI platform that you can simply feed an unedited, uncut video into, and it will beautifully edit it from start to finish.
I know.
I'm sure it will come at some point, but I've tried things like Descript.
I was going to ask you about Descript.
Yeah, I gave it a trial quite recently, actually. And I found it quite frustrating. I fed in a video which had bad takes. So it I stumbled my words, and it had like 2 or 3 takes to say the same thing. And it cut out all of the gaps, all the silences, but the video still contained me saying the same thing 3 times. So it wasn't a complete solution. I think that will come. Surely it will come at some point.
I feel like that as well, because it feels like it can do all the various component parts of it using AI, but not the whole thing together. Like you've got things like Opus which can chop bits up,
which is brilliant.
Then you've got whatever CapCut, most things can put auto captions on these days. I'm like, right, well, there's not a lot of bits missing. If you can do those 2 things, and the rest of it is nice to have, not need to have.
It's maddening, because with everything that AI is capable of, it feels like this should be within grasp. But I haven't come across a tool that can do it yet. So that would be lovely, and I'm sure it will come very soon. We know how quickly AI moves on. But for now, at least part of the editing, I think, has to be done manually.
Okay, so just getting super practical for people. If they are going to do their own editing, what do you recommend they use?
I use CapCut. It costs, if you subscribe to it, it costs about, I think it's gone up. I think it's about 15 quid a month. It's really good. It's really intuitive, simple to use, and you could teach it to a member of your team, or you could teach yourself very easily. Loads of YouTube videos out there telling you how to do it. It does have some quite useful AI features as well. Speaking of AI, it now has a feature which converts your entire video into text, so you can edit it just by highlighting words and deleting text, which is good to kind of like quickly just clip it down to the central parts, and then you kind of fine tune it afterwards. So CapCut is brilliant, and it's got all of the it's got music in there, and it's got special effects in there, but I don't like to over edit videos. You don't want them to look too flashy. So just CapCut does the basics done, and then if it's a nice long video, you then put it into Opus, and you get a month's worth of clips out of it.
I mess around on CapCut, and have you ever tried the auto translate button?
Yes.
So I had a whole video that came out in Spanish, but it was my voice in Spanish. I was like, whoa, that is really weird. Anyway, not relevant or useful at all.
There's another AI feature where I tried it with a script, and I had a script set up which was just off camera, like on a auto cue style thing. I think it was actually on my laptop. And it's got an eye contact correction feature.
Oh, so you can be looking at the script and it will make you look over.
And it will swerve your eyeballs towards the lens. It looked a little bit unnerving, if I'm honest. I don't think that bit's quite there
It's a bit Demon Headmaster, isn't it, before you get too carried away with it. All right, I think you and I could probably geek out on this stuff too, so we're going to move on.
I think so.
So coming to the end of this then, you've now shacked up with Unchained. So what does that mean for you? What does that mean for Unchained and for Unchained's customers, for example?
So, it's really exciting. Unchained, for anyone who doesn't know, is the marketing consultancy headed up by Simon Ledbetter. Simon obviously has a rich history in property marketing, so I feel very lucky as someone who comes from an agency background who has naturally drifted over to the world of marketing. Absolutely fantastic guy to learn from. So for me personally, it's, I think, kind of completing a bit of an evolution into becoming a marketer. Yes, I know my video marketing. However, when I'm putting myself out there saying, I can help you with video, I can help you with your video marketing. Previously, if anyone wanted me to just do their marketing for them, my capacity to do that as a, as a self-employed solo marketing person was pretty limited. So it's exciting with Unchained to now be able to go beyond video and to offer complete marketing services to agents and to work side by side with Simon. And I think that Simon wouldn't mind me saying that perhaps the element that Unchained were lightest on previously when it came to offering a complete marketing package was video marketing. Yeah. And so for that reason, it felt like a very complementary fit as opposed to duplicating what each other do. It's been quite a natural fit just to slot into the Unchained team. So yeah, it means that Unchained clients can now get a whole load more video content in their marketing, as well as all the other things that Unchained were already doing.
Happy days, good for them. And then to conclude the podcast on the usual ridiculous note, so we have a closing tradition, which is, like I say, ridiculous, but this is Property Porn Stars, and everyone has their own porn star name, whether they know it or not. Yeah. And that is comprised of your mother's maiden name,
yeah,
and your first pet's name. Yeah. See, I struggle with this because we've got it wrong for so long. I completely botched it, and then someone said, nah, that's not actually how it works. And we're like, oh, right, okay.
Do you know what? I'm glad that that's what you landed on, because there's another formula that I know of which involves the street where you grew up. Oh. And if we were doing that, I'm going to have to tell you off camera because mine is obscene.
No. I'll press the explicit button. Get it out there now. You go straight to the top of the leaderboard.
I'll give you both. So the answer to the question you asked, which is mother's maiden name and first pet's name.
Yeah.
My mother's maiden name is Barnes. Yeah. First pet was called Rudy.
Oh, all right. Okay.
I think if I can switch them round, Rudy Barnes, I think would be a bit of a stud, if I'm honest.
And what's the X-rated version?
Okay, so I grew up, my parents lived in the sticks in the middle of nowhere, and there was a local tradition that about half a mile away there was a pub, and people would spill out of the pub at closing time, half cut, and the street sign of our hill was so hilarious to them that it got stolen about once a month. So I grew up, the street name was Titty Hill. Mm. So if we were going with first pet and street name, then my porn star name would be Rudy Titty.
That's really quite good. Yeah, that's pretty knockout. Yeah, I think it's top of the leaderboard. We'll change the formula around you. Love that, Rudy Titty. Right then, Rudy, I might change your name on my phone. That's been a pleasure. It's really, I think we went quite quickly through a lot of stuff in that and ended up in a stupid place through that conversation. But hopefully, for anyone who's listening that's either not done video or wants to do video, wants to do it better, and get to grips with it more for their business, either existing business or new business, whatever they're going to be doing, I think hopefully there's been quite a lot of useful content in there. If people want to dive into the subject more with you, how can they do that? How can they find you? What are you doing to engage with people on this subject?
Oh, well, if you search me on social media, you'll find a whole load of video content of my own. And what I would say to anyone listening to this is I began making video myself with my mobile phone, still use my mobile phone, and a tripod and CapCut. You can absolutely make video that is adequate for your social media feeds in-house without spending a single penny. So if you don't do anything, if you don't do anything else, just start doing that. And if you struggle, yes, there's various people in the industry, myself included, who can help you with that. So yeah, do look me up on social media. I put out loads of free advice. I've got a free webinar on YouTube about how to beat camera shyness. Loads of free content for people to consume out there.
Awesome. strongly suggest you do. And on that note, Toby, thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
No. And it's been a really good conversation. So I hope that you've enjoyed it, dear viewer or dear listener. And we will catch you in the next episode of Property Porn Stars.